It doesn't matter if you are standing in the wheat belts of Saskatchewan, the rice paddies of Vietnam, or the coffee plantations of Brazil. If you look at the horizon, you will eventually see it. A flash of red, 3 triangles, and the sound of an engine that refuses to quit. Massey Ferguson. It is one of the few brands in human history that has transcended its industry. To the city dweller, it's just a tractor. But to the people who feed the world, it is a legend. It is a company born from a clash of titans, a Canadian blacksmith, a fierce business rival, and an eccentric Irish genius who reinvented the physics of farming. They say that history is written by the victors. In agriculture, history is written in red paint. Over the next 10 minutes, we're going to explore how a small foundry in the Canadian wilderness grew into a global empire. We will look at the harvester wars, the invention that stopped tractors from killing their drivers, and the machine that many claim is the greatest tractor ever built, the MF-135. This is the story of the Red Giant. The story begins in 1847. The place is Newcastle, Ontario, Canada. The world was a different place. There was no electricity, no cars. Farming was a brutal test of endurance, man and horse against the earth. Enter Daniel Massey. He was a practical man, a Methodist, and a blacksmith. He opened a small shop called the Newcastle Foundry. He wasn't trying to change the world, he was just trying to help his neighbors. He began importing American equipment, threshers and reapers, and reinforcing them to survive the rugged Canadian soil. But success breeds competition. Just a few towns away, another man, Alanson Harris, started his own company. For decades, Massey and Harris were bitter enemies. This period is known by historians as the Harvester Wars. It was corporate warfare in the 1880s. They sent spies to each other's factories. During harvest festivals, Massey agents would heckle Harris agents during demonstrations. They slashed prices to the bone, trying to bankrupt one another. But in 1891, reality hit. A massive economic depression threatened to wipe them both out. They realized if they kept fighting, they would both die. So they did the unthinkable. They shook hands. Massey Harris was born. Overnight, they became the largest agricultural manufacturer in the British Empire. They were the kings of the harvest. In 1938, they stunned the world with the number 20. The first commercially successful self-propelled combine. Before this, you needed a tractor to pull a harvester. Massey Harris put the engine inside the harvester. They had conquered the harvest, but they had a weakness. Their tractors were terrible. They were heavy, clumsy beasts. They were just engines on steel wheels. They needed a revolution. And that revolution was happening in a garage in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Harry Ferguson was a madman, or a genius. Usually he was both. He was the first Irishman to build and fly his own airplane, but in the 1920s, his eyes turned to the ground. He saw that tractors were death traps. Back then, you towed a plow behind a tractor with a simple chain or drawbar. If the plow hit a rock, the tractor's rear wheels would keep turning, but the tractor couldn't move forward, so the front end would lift up. The tractor would flip backwards, crushing the driver. It happened instantly. Ferguson was obsessed with fixing this. He believed the tractor and the plow should not be two separate things. They should be one unit. He invented the 3-point hitch. This is the most important invention in the history of tractors. It used 3 connection points and a hydraulic system called draft control. Here is the genius of it. If the plow hit a rock, the hydraulics felt the resistance and automatically lifted the plow slightly. This transferred the weight of the plow onto the tractor's rear wheels, giving it more grip while simultaneously pulling the front of the tractor down. It made the tractor safer, lighter, and more fuel efficient. He called it the Ferguson system. Ferguson knew he had the best design in the world. He teamed up with Henry Ford in America to build the Ford Ferguson 9N. It was a massive hit, but the relationship ended with betrayal. Henry Ford II broke the agreement and stole Ferguson's patents. Ferguson sued Ford for $251 million. He won, but he was left without a factory. He was a man with a perfect machine, but no way to build it at scale. Across the ocean, Massey Harris had the massive factories, but no modern tractor. It was destiny. In 1953, the two companies merged, Massey Harris Ferguson. It wasn't a smooth marriage. The engineers hated each other. Harry Ferguson left after only a year, but the result of that chaos was the brand we know today. In 1958, they shortened the name to Massey Ferguson. They adopted the triple triangle logo, and they dipped their machines in blood red paint. In 1964, Massey Ferguson launched the 100 series, and out of that series came the MF-135. If there is a Hall of Fame for machines, the MF-135 is on the podium next to the Ford Model T and the AK-47. It is widely considered the best tractor ever made. Why? Simplicity. It was powered by the Perkins AD 3.152, a three-cylinder diesel that was virtually indestructible. It had massive torque, it sipped fuel, and it could be fixed with a hammer and a wrench. The MF-135 conquered the world. It didn't just work in the nice flat fields of Europe, it worked in the rice paddies of Asia. It worked on the rocky slopes of the Andes, it worked in the dust of Africa. Because it was light, it didn't compact the soil. Because it used the Ferguson system, it could pull implements far heavier than its size suggested. Massey Ferguson sold hundreds of thousands of them. Today, over 50 years later, you can still go to a farm in almost any country and find a 135 working. It refuses to retire. This was the golden age. By the 1970s, Massey Ferguson was the largest tractor manufacturer in the Western world. Their factory in Coventry, England, Banner Lane, was the largest tractor plant on Earth. They were untouchable, or so they thought. The 80s were a graveyard for agricultural companies. A global recession, high interest rates, and low grain prices hit the industry like a sledgehammer. Farmers stopped buying new tractors. Massey Ferguson was overextended. They had too much debt. They began to bleed money. They closed factories. They laid off thousands of workers. Banner Lane, the spiritual home of the brand, eventually closed its doors. For a moment, it looked like the red giant was going to die. But the brand had something that money couldn't buy: loyalty. Farmers didn't want to switch to green or blue tractors. They wanted red ones. In 1994, the AGCO Corporation stepped in. They acquired Massey Ferguson. Critics feared AGCO would just slap the Massey logo on generic machines, but they did the opposite. They invested. They realized that Massey Ferguson's DNA was unique. They modernized the Beauvais factory in France. They pushed for high horsepower innovation. This leads us to today, the MF-8 series. Look at it. It looks like a spaceship. It has a retro future design that pays homage to the old 100 series, but with technology Harry Ferguson could only dream of. The cab floats separately from the engine to eliminate vibration. It is fully connected to the cloud. It drives itself with GPS precision down to the centimeter. But if you strip away the computers, the sensors, and the air conditioning, underneath, you will still find the three-point hitch. You will still find the geometry of the Ferguson system. The heart of the machine remains the same. From the blacksmith's forge in 1847 to the digital age of 2025, the journey of Massey Ferguson is the journey of modern agriculture. It is a story of how we learned to feed a population that grew from 1 billion to 8 billion. Massey Ferguson didn't just build tractors, they built bridges between the past and the future. They took the farmer off the horse and gave him the power of 100 horses. Today, the triple triangle is more than a logo. It is a promise that when the sun comes up and the work needs to be done, the machine will start. So the next time you see that red silhouette working a field in the distance, remember, you aren't just looking at a tractor. You were looking at 175 years of genius, struggle, and triumph. You are looking at the red giant.